Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we're going to be doing another little bit of food prep. I'm making one of my favorite dishes that I love to enjoy, and it's kind of a wild concoction of a whole bunch of things. So I call it a butternut squash hash, and it kind of has some curry flavors in it. I serve it generally with over top of like a bed of kale or arugula. Tonight, I think I have some kale and some spinach to use up in the fridge. It's just a really yummy mix. I throw some chicken skewers in there, some hummus, some balsamic dressing on top of it when it's all done. And it's honestly one of my favorite things to eat. It's super easy to kind of use up a whole bunch of vegetables that you have left over in the fridge. And that's kind of the situation that I'm at right now. So I'm going to start pulling things out. I have the oven preheating to 375 degrees. We're going to put together the hash, and then I'm going to throw some chicken skewers in the air fryer to serve along with that. And we're just going to kind of walk through the process all together. So I hope you'll enjoy this ride with me. It's kind of a strange one, but I guarantee it hits kind of all the notes. It has some spicy, it has some crunchy, it has some sweet. It just kind of has all of these delicious flavors mixed into it. So I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm going to start grabbing some stuff. Like I said, it's a butternut squash hash. So that's kind of the base. But the big chunk of butternut squash kind of left over from something I did last week. I'm also going to throw a little bit of cauliflower in that today. And also going to grab apple. Okay, we're going to dice up some apple and put that in there with it. Then I'm going to grab my onion. I think I have. There it is. Okay, so I get my cutting board ready. I'm also going to grab a baking pan. So I'm just going to cover this with parchment just because that makes it super quick and easy. We could spray it down with some cooking spray if that's what I have. I'm just going to line that there. Put my little trick, my wet cloth underneath my cutting board so it doesn't slide and spin around on the counter. Gonna grab a nice sharp knife. Now we're just gonna go ahead and start slicing and dicing. So I'm not actually even sure where I came up with this recipe, but I've been doing it forever. I think it probably is just a bunch of flavors that I enjoyed separately and decided I would put them all together. So that's what I did, and I've been enjoying it for years now. So I'm just going to roughly kind of dice up this cauliflower. Just kind of want like bite size, probably like half-inch pieces. Nothing super huge. Kind of want things to be able to cook approximately at the same time. So just going to throw those on my baking dish. Okay, so we're going to mix everything all together. This is a pretty large onion, so I think I'm probably just going to take half of it. All the skins off of there. Yeah, I'm just going to dice that as well. So it doesn't need to be super finely diced, but a pretty good dice on that. You just want it to be a good mix of flavors throughout. You want there to be a little bit of each flavor in every single bite that you put. Okay, so that's just a roughly diced yellow onion. This one does not need to be served with the chicken. So if you're looking for a meatless meal, or if you have someone who doesn't enjoy or doesn't partake in meat, this is a great dish to serve because you can kind of do the meat as an option. It's not a necessity in order to make this meal yummy. I love to put a little bit of fruit in all of my, whenever I make something that's kind of a curry flavor, I like the sweetness of what some fruit adds to that. So for this time, I'm going to add an apple. And I'm just going to leave the skin on. And again, I'm just going to roughly dice that up. Throw that to my pan. Okay. I grabbed 2 apples out of the fridge, but I think I'm actually just going to use one. Just looking at how much butternut squash I have there. And you can see we're just layering it all onto the pan there. And I am going to go ahead, get this butternut squash peeled, and then we can dice it up. Okay. So I'm just going to cut a nice flat end. And then I'm just going to use I find it's quite hard to peel with a apple peeler or a potato peeler. So I usually just go at it with a pretty sharp knife. Just making sure that I have a flat end so I can be nice and stable. My cutting board. And I have a little tip for you guys. Maybe I should have shared that before I cut it up. Let me get the last of the skin off, and then I'll tell you. Um, when you buy a butternut squash, the little round bulbous end is where all the seeds are. So you actually want to buy one with the longest portion coming off of there, because that's where all the meat is. So you don't have to clean out any of the seeds. So you want to make sure that the bulb has kind of a long portion, because that's the meaty part of butternut squash. So you'll get more bang for your buck out of that one. The other part is kind of hollow with a little bit of the seed in there that you kind of have to mess with. I'm not sure that I'm going to mess with that today. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this into strips so that I can start to dice that up. And if you want to do this at some grocery stores in the fresh produce aisle, they actually have pre-diced butternut squash that comes in bags. So you're welcome to use that as well if that's an easier option for you. I'm just cutting it into probably just half-inch cubes here. Again, just looking to keep the size pretty consistent so that everything will cook up really quickly. So you'll notice I generally pick recipes that are pretty forgiving. Quantities, I like stuff that's a rough cut, rustic, I guess is that what we call it. Um, I don't like things that are too finicky or too picky, especially when we're talking about food prep. We're looking for stuff that's going to taste really yummy, that's going to store in the fridge really well, and just going to kind of come together quickly and easily without being too finicky. I don't like to recommend recipes to people that have to be really babied or they'll fail. I feel like that's disappointing for a lot of people, and I don't think that that's what we're looking for on a daily basis, especially, like I said, when it comes to food prep. We're looking for stuff that's easy, comes together quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to throw these things back into the fridge, and then we're going to spice this all up. Okay, so this is where you kind of get to be a little bit you're going to have to gauge things according to kind of what you like and your own taste. So I am going to grab a little bit of chicken bouillon. gonna grab some curry powder. I'm gonna throw some chives in there just for some color. I like a little bit of rosemary and thyme, and then I'm also gonna grab some cumin. Okay, so I'm going to start sprinkling pretty liberally. So I'm first gonna put some of those chives. Basically, I just want some nice color. Okay, I feel like the green balances out the color of everything else going on that dish there. They're dehydrated, already chopped. They don't really add a ton of flavor, if I'm being honest. They're more just kind of for presentation. Okay, so now I'm going to take some time and I'm just going to just sprinkle. I'm just looking to liberally cover. You want, like I said, there to be a little bit of flavor from each in every single bite. So let's start with that. A little bit of rosemary on there. Okay. I'm going to take my chicken stock and just kind of give that a little sprinkle. There's probably about one and a half teaspoons in there. There's not a lot. We can add some salt and pepper if we need to afterwards. So I'm gonna take some curry. I like mine to be quite a good flavor of curry. So in here, I probably have about a tablespoon of curry powder. It's just the yellow curry powder, and I'm probably going to add all of that this to this amount on the tray here. Okay, so that's about 1 tablespoon of that curry powder. And then I'm going to add a little bit of extra flavor with some cumin. And this I'll probably add about a teaspoon on here, but I'm just going to shake that out. Okay. Now I am going to grab one more thing because I'm realizing I forgot something that I love. I am actually going to grab some cayenne because I want this to have a little bit of kick. I have the luxury of cooking for myself, so I get to spice it up just the way that I like it. If you're cooking this for your family or someone that's not particularly into that extra heat, I would avoid the cayenne. And I'm just going to very carefully probably add less than half a teaspoon on top of here, just so that it doesn't get too crazy. Okay, so we can always spice this a little bit more after it's started to cook, and we can taste it and see how it's all coming together, and we can add if we want to at that point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to top this with my hands. I want those spices to kind of coat. So I'm going to just move this all around and then spread it back out on the pan. Okay. Should be all mixed in there now. My hands are quick rinse. Actually, I'm going to also add a little bit of fresh ground pepper. Okay. There we go. And I'm going to throw that into the oven, that 375-degree oven. Throw that in and get that starting. Okay. Clean up my space a little bit. So one of the other things that I'm going to add to that baking pan, once it starts cooking a little bit more, I like to put some dried fruit in my curry flavored stuff as well. It adds a nice sweetness. It adds a nice kind of chewy texture to it. But if you add, I'm going to add some raisins. You can add raisins, or you can add dried cranberries, whichever is your preference or whichever you have on hand. But if you add them too early, they'll actually burn, and then they'll kind of taste scorched. So they are usually something that I add towards the end as I kind of check it and see how it's coming along, and just kind of throw them in and give them a mix and let them all come together that way. So those will probably go in the last 5-10 minutes. They don't really need to cook in there. They probably could actually just be added at the very end without needing to have them cook. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my chicken out of the fridge here. So I actually went ahead and pre-marinated this a little bit earlier. I had some chicken that I just cut the breasts. I skewered them onto mini skewers. And then I added some olive oil, I added some balsamic vinegar, I added some rosemary, some thyme, some salt, and some pepper. And then I also added a little bit of honey just for some sweetness. Okay, so that's just been marinating in there for a couple of hours. And I am going to um, give my air fryer pan a little bit of spray here. And I'm just going to add those skewers. So you can see what they look like. They've been marinating, like I said, for just an hour or two, just to kind of give them a little bit of flavor. I'll probably pour that marinade over top of these once I get them into the air fryer, just so that I'm not wasting any of that marinade and that flavor. These are going to go really nicely with that hash that we're putting together there. Okay, so I'm just staggering these in the air fryer. I'm going to pour the rest of that marinade over top. Make sure you don't save any of this marinade to brush on later when they're done cooking. The raw chicken will come back to bite you if you use that. So everything that's touched the raw chicken needs to be cooked or needs to be thrown. Okay, so I'm going to put that into my air fryer and I'm going to go ahead and get that started. So mine just has preset times and settings. So when I choose the chicken setting, it's going to cook at 320, 325 degrees. And it's suggesting that we start with about 8 to 10 minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead and start that on the preset. We can always just check it as it goes and see how it's coming along and change things up as we need to. Okay, so while those things are cooking, I am going to grab my containers to start putting together all the other things that this is going to go on top of. So I'm going to use my big salad containers so that I can do a healthy serving. I think I'm probably going to get 4 good servings out of here. And as we're assembling these and putting them together, I'm going to remind you that we want to make sure that we keep the things in here that are going to be cold, and then we're going to store separately the things that need to be reheated again. Okay, so that will make it easy when it comes time to eat. We can throw the stuff that needs to be heated into the microwave, and we can have the other stuff already stay cold. Okay, so if you start like throwing your chicken and your hash on top of this now, then you're not going to really have the opportunity to eat it when it comes time to eat. So let me just make sure I have all the things. So in these dishes, these are basically going to be served over a salad base. So I'm going to grab the things. Again, I'm using tonight's recipe as a way of kind of cleaning out my fridge. So I have some kale, I have some spinach that both need to be used up. So I'm going to go ahead and use those. I really actually prefer and love this over top of arugula. I'm a real fan of arugula. And it kind of adds a nice flavor to everything I use it in. But again, you're welcome to use whatever greens you have on hand or whatever you like. As you can see, I have a partial bag of kale and I have some spinach here as well. I'm just going to go ahead and pour those into the containers. Started. A healthy serving of the kale, and then there's just a little bit of spinach, so I'm probably just going to top that up, just to use that up. I'll probably use this in the rest later on. Not sure if you know, sometimes if you have some kale left over and you're not going to get to use it in time, it's great if you just throw it in the freezer and you can throw it in your soup. Just put it in a Ziploc bag and throw it in the freezer and then you can pour it out of it into your smoothie blender as you're making those up. Okay. We need to make sure we're not wasting any of that expensive produce that we're all spending a lot of money on. Okay, so also have my washed baby spinach here. Just a little bit of that left. Just top this out. So there's just this one's in. Okay, there we go. So that's the base that I'm going to use for these. So that's kale and our spinach is right there. And then I took, again, looking for the easy way for a lot of this stuff. This is meal prep that we're doing on a regular basis. So I actually just went and pre-purchased some hummus. It's from a local restaurant here. It's nice and creamy and it mixes everything all together. So I have these little containers that I'm just going to go ahead and put some hummus in each of those. So this, we're going to mix everything all together. It's meant to just be enjoyed all together, and it kind of dresses the hash and the greens to put the hummus. And I'm also going to be adding a balsamic dressing. Okay. Potatoes. Crackers. So I'm going to add into some more little containers. I am going to add some balsamic dressing. And this is a balsamic dressing. You can buy a dressing. I am not opposed to buying dressings. A balsamic is probably the only one that I tend to make crappy. I don't mind buying them, but this is one that I have, and I'll be happy to let you know what's in this one. It's olive oil, balsamic vinegar. There's some honey Dijon mustard, grainy honey Dijon mustard in here. There's a little bit of honey. There's some salt and pepper, and that's all that it is. And I just mix that up, and I just store it in one of these squeeze bottles in my fridge, and I just always have it on hand. I use it on a lot of my salads. I love a sweet balsamic dressing. This one seems to hit the spot. Okay, so I'm just mixing the potatoes here. It's up those so we can tuck them in these containers. To eat this week. See, these containers I actually just bought from the dollar store. They can stick to the grocery, but you can see them in there. So transport stuff with you. Different size for things. To top this with, I told you this is the craziest mix of everything you're ever going to find out there. Just go check on the chicken here. That. Probably want that chicken to about 15 minutes. Okay, so what I'm going to do to top these as well, I like to have a little bit of crunch.
So I actually take a little bit of my mixed nuts, my trail mix. It's actually a trail mix that I put together. It's mixed nuts, it's peanuts, cashews, almonds, pecans, and then I throw some dry fruit in there as well. So there's raisins, there's cranberries, um, just basically a yummy little mixed nut combo. And I'm going to use these containers again just for that nut mix so that I feel like if I put them on top of the lettuce, nuts have a tendency to actually kind of go a little mushy. I put them on top of some of my yogurt bakes and stuff like that, and any of the moisture kind of absorbs into them, and then they use that much, which is really what I'm on them for. So I'm going to put them in containers. You can put them in a little Ziploc bag if you wanted to, and just store those on the side so that they're ready to. Okay, so that's going to add a really nice crunch. You're really going to enjoy that. It adds a lot, trust me. There. Note about the chicken skewers. They don't. The chicken doesn't have to be skewered. You could serve this with a full chicken breast. You could cube it all up and cook it in a frying pan on top of the stove. You could bake it in the oven. It doesn't have to be skewered. So I just like to kind of do that. I feel like it looks really nice. It kind of portions things out for me. So, and that's just the way that I said. But that is not a by any means. Oh, let's go ahead and check that hash. I'm gonna pull it out, grab a spatula to kind of give it a little bit of a stir and see how it's on. Gather my dishes together, the things that I'm going to store the the hash and the chicken in, and I'll just show you. I think I'm going to end up using containers that are about this size, okay? Just so that I can put the hash on one side and put a couple of skewers on the other side. So I'll need 4 of those. With this. Chop that chicken. Nicely. I'm actually going to give them a flip. They smell really good, but I kind of want them to get a little bit crispy on the outside. That's the thing that I love about using the air fryer for the chicken is it can kind of get a little bit crispy on the outside and it'll still be nice and roast on the inside. So just going to give them a flip. And I'll flip them back in. Okay. Those things finish cooking and I will be right back and we can plate that up and I'll finish off when things have cooked up. So everything is all done. Let's go ahead and pull things out of the oven. That hash has turned lovely. Let me put something down on the counter. I went ahead and threw those raisins in about 5 minutes ago. Just gave them a good little mix. To show that to you. Okay, so there's the raisins. Everything's nice and tender cooked. Kind of gave it a taste at that time as well, and added any more seasonings that
I thought it actually needed a little bit more salt, so threw a little bit more salt on there. But it is all good to go. Everything is nice and cooked and super flavorful. So the chicken is also done. It's in the air fryer. So I'm going to go ahead and divide this hash into my containers here, first of all, and then I'll nestle the skewers down on top of that for easy reheating. Okay, so super yummy. I can hardly wait to put this all together, eat it. The creamy and the balsamic, everything just comes together so well. You're gonna love this. I really guarantee it. Money back guarantee. How about that? Okay, so just gonna go ahead and divide that equally. I love how the parchment just keeps everything all nice and tidy. Okay, my pan is clean. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this up for them there. Okay, set that to the side. And I'm going to grab the chicken out and let you see the chicken as well. So the chicken got all nice and um, browned up. Still going to be nice and moist in the middle. I'm just going to nestle those down in, on top from the diagonal. And I think there should be two for each, two little skewers for each container here. So when it comes time to eat, I'll throw these into the microwave so the chicken and the hash can reheat. Then I'll put them on top of the lettuce base, the kale, and then the spinach. And I'll just mix it all together. I'll put that hummus on there, drizzle it with a balsamic dressing, the nuts, give it all a really good shake. You want everything to just mix together. It'll be all creamy, and the dressing will be nice and sweet and tangy on top of there. And I hope that you enjoy this meal as much as I did and as much as I do on a regular basis. So that's for this week. This is my curried butternut squash hash with chicken skewers on the side. So enjoy and happy eating, everyone.